Just to start off, you might all be interested to know that 2012 is 100 years since the smaller municipalities in Cape Town came together to form what was then known as Greater Cape Town, which was the first sort of group municipality back then. And the reason that it was formed was because there was a shortage of water back then, that the Table Mountain dams and the springs weren't able to supply enough water. And the only little area that didn't join was Wynberg. And the reason was because Wynberg had their own dam, and they didn't want to share the water with anybody else. But later on, in 1913, they did join. And since then, the city's changed considerably. And Greater Cape Town would only now form quite a small portion of what we know as the Uni-City or the city of Cape Town. If you Google images of Cape Town, you'll find this is kind of the stock standard, most common image that comes up. It's not really that accurate because this is actually Greenpoint. But it is quite an effective representation of the challenges that we are facing in terms of a city. If you look, we've got the ocean surrounding us from three sides, and we've got the big mountain in the middle, which is also, people forget, a nature reserve. I think we're one of the only cities, I think we're the only city which has a nature reserve smack bam in the middle of it. So we are very restricted in terms of what we can do, especially in terms of spatial planning, and that's something that I'm going to come back to a little bit later. But what I'd like to do is just give a quick, brief run-through of the three spheres of government, just so that you can work out where I fit in as a ward councillor. We've got national government, Parliament. They're based in Parliament, and our president, obviously, Jacob Zuma. Then we have provincial government. They're based at Wales Street, 44 Wales Street, and our premier, Helen Ziller. And then we have local government. They're based at the Cape Town Civic Centre, and that's where I am. And my leader is the Mayor, Patricia de Lille, and all of our councillors are within the sphere of local government. And it's very important to emphasize that we are a sphere and not it's not a tiered system. People often think that it's a tiered system where local government's at the bottom, and then you have provincial government, then you have national government. We're three separate independent spheres. Although it does make a difference to have the different organs of government cooperating. Okay, so I'm ward councillor for Ward 77. You are currently sitting in a portion of my ward. I'm not ward councillor for District 6, so I won't have to answer any questions on that, which is great after listening to you with some tricky ones earlier. But I am ward councillor for the Boerkaap. I am also for this whole area up here. So Tamboerskloof Gardens, Oranjezig, Vredehoek, a bit of Table Mountain. I don't have Zonnebloem anymore. I've got the Cape Town CBD, in Switzerland, obviously, which is the Boerkaap, and then I've also got Duvartekant, which is another little area next to Greenpoint on the side. Historic area, but a fantastic place to work in as well. I'm involved in council meetings, sub-council meetings, ward committee meetings, a variety of different things, but the majority of my time is actually taken up by complaints from residents about potholes and weeds. Bizarre things. We've actually got a farm up in Tamboerskloof. People often don't realize this in the military base, and I sometimes get calls about stray pigs in Long Street. There are a variety of different things that a ward councillor has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm quite busy. So the Cape Town CBD, which also falls under my jurisdiction, it's in the middle there. It's recognized currently as being the most successful CBD in South Africa. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to explain how we got to where we are currently. And then I'm going to look at some of the challenges facing us as a ward and also as a metro going forward. So 1994, local government, the first democratic national elections, Nelson Mandela takes over, and he is, and his party is faced with overwhelming pressure to deliver. And because of this, there is a prioritization in the underprivileged areas, previously disadvantaged areas, and there is a focus, the focus is somewhat taken off established areas, and in particular CBDs. So, justifiably, RDP houses are start to be built, and services start to be rendered within the poorer areas. But we do see a slight decline within our CBDs. And by the year 2000, we find the Cape Town CBD is in quite a bad state. The business and residential component are threatening to move out. Quite a lot of people have moved out. And that same year, in 2000, the Cape Town Unicity is formed, which comprises 6 other municipalities. And that's it over there, marked out in red. So right at the bottom, you've got Cape Point, all the way up to the top at Atlantis. And then on your right-hand side, that's sort of Gordons Bay, Somerset West. So that's where we are as a unicity now in the year 2000. And that same year, the Central City Improvement District is set up under the Cape Town Partnership. And the intention of the Central City Improvement District is essentially to improve the central city. And with 3 main goals. The one is safety and security, the other one is social development, and then the issues around cleansing as well. And they really start to get the ball rolling. Business invests heavily, and they start to turn the tide. Then in 2006, we have a change of government at the City of Cape Town. We get a new mayor. The mayor focuses very much on delivery. And we managed to reduce crime, along with assistance from the Cape Town Partnership and the SID, within the central CBD by 2009 by 90%. In 5 years, the new administration spends 19 billion on infrastructure, as opposed to the 5 billion spent before that. And it also sets up a complaints reporting system, which we call the C3 reporting system, where you can phone in, lodge a complaint, you get a reference number, and that then can be followed up on. And we get our times of completion of sort of pothole complaints and basic issues down to an average of 3 days. We also, by that stage, have provided 100% of households with basic access to water services. 2009, Jacob Zuma becomes the president of the country, and the DA administration then takes control of the Western Cape province. So, this isn't a political discussion. What I'm trying to demonstrate now is that one administration has control of the City of Cape Town as well as the province. So we have cooperation between the two. In 2010, we host the World Cup, which is a fantastic success. We buckle the trends. The international media is saying you can't do it, and we do it. And the main reason is because people are all pulling in the same direction, and as opposed to a lot of our other issues in the country, which often get highly politicized, especially around housing, safety, health, we know that we have to build stadiums, we have to create more infrastructure, we have to fix up our transport system, otherwise this thing isn't going to work. And with all of South Africa working together, we managed to achieve some incredible things. The city also has a lot of challenges that it's facing, and our biggest challenge is the legacy of apartheid. And it's quite well illustrated in terms of the spatial planning under the apartheid government, which a little bit of that was discussed earlier in the talk by Mr. Table Mountain. If we look over here, Cape Town, we've got the southern suburbs at the bottom and the northern suburbs at the top. And then we've got areas of Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha over there. And as you can see, they're very divided from the rest of the city. And the only way to access them is through these freeways. And if you don't have a car, and the trains only travel during the day, it's very, very difficult to integrate these two communities. So it's also quite evident if we look at this in terms of income density. If we look at the Cape Town CBD, that's where the majority of your money is being earned. And we've got a couple of other smaller, minor little CBD areas across. But then if we look at where the majority of people are staying, there's a massive disparity. So we look again, that's where the money is being earned, and that's where the people are living. So what do we need to do? We need to connect these two communities. So the city is prioritizing this in a number of ways. One of which is by the implementation of the IRT, Integrated Rapid Transit System. We prefer to call it the IRT, and integrated referring to the fact that it doesn't only consist of buses, it's buses as well as non-motorized transport as well, trying to get people onto their bikes, onto their skateboards, whatever they can, just get people out of their cars and start to use forms of public transport and non-motorized transport. We've set up our first phase up to Atlantis now, and it's linking a community which didn't ever have a proper public transport system with the city of Cape Town. It's really, really exciting. There's another 3 major routes as well as a number of feeder routes which are going to be going out. But you can't only, in our modern society, look at transport as the only way to connect people. What we're also doing is we've launched quite an ambitious plan to connect the city via broadband, free broadband infrastructure. And this is the first phase. It's directly connected with the economic hubs across the city. And where you are now, if you look at the green area, that's the local network in the city, which connects all of our civic buildings. And then the red line is the core ring. So that connects back into the core ring again. So that's one of our key priorities, and it's something which is going to drive the fringe. I know Guy's going to talk about the fringe in greater detail later. Back to our first slide. If you look at the peninsula and you look at where we are, as I mentioned earlier, we do have topographic limitations in terms of where we can build. We don't have the ability to sprawl in the same way that London and Joburg and other cities do. So we have to densify, and the city of Cape Town has recently embarked on a densification strategy guided by a new policy. But the real question now is, how do we densify? Do we go this route? That is a series of buildings in China. Probably not ideal for our sort of city. Do we go the row housing route, which is the type of housing that you see up in the Boer Kaap, which is also a totally different angle? And most importantly, how do we sell this to people who a lot of the time really want a house that they can walk around and possibly have livestock in the back garden? It's a very, very difficult one, and it's a massive challenge going forward, and it's best left to the professionals. I'm not going to get involved directly. So just a little bit in terms of going back to my ward again and what we've done, and I'm just going through this to try and encourage people in terms of community activism, and I think it ties in with the love your seat idea earlier. This is the ward that we're in now, Ward 77, and the green area is where we set up our CCID, the Central City Improvement District. 2 other improvement districts then followed in Oranjekloof and the Greenpoint SID. And then what happened was a series of neighborhood watches were set up in cooperation with the city and with law enforcement and SAPS. And what this has done is it's provided a network across the whole ward, not only in terms of safety and security, but in terms of community interaction and community involvement. People have started taking back their public open spaces and their parks, having family events, and it's been massively successful. Our last part of the puzzle is hopefully to set up what we're going to call the lower garden SID in that area over there, mainly because we don't have a very large residential component to run a neighborhood watch. This is the De Waal Park. De Waal Park fell into a state of disrepair. It's a national monument. It's one of the most integral public open spaces in the city bowl. And it really started to fall to pieces. And in 2008, a group of concerned residents got together, called themselves the Friends of the De Waal Park, and via donations, sponsorships, and just a lot of involvement on a day-to-day basis, managed to bring the park back to its former glory. And this is a series of summer concerts that were hosted this year and at the end of last year. very similar to the Kirstenbosch concerts, although these ones were all entirely free because they were sponsored by one of the local businesses. And another example of a community project, a chap called me a couple of years back when I was still working as a support officer and said to me he really wants to do soccer development within the CBD area, specifically in Frederhoek. So I said, well, I've been getting a lot of complaints about a desolate piece of field where there are vagrants. So got him down to this area, which is the Yeovil Road field in Frederhoek. We set up a lease with Sports and Rec. And then he took the baton from there. It's a guy called Stuart Diamond, and set up what is now the Grass Boots Football Club. And local kids from the area, as well as kids from other areas, are now there. The whole area has been rejuvenated, and they're using it as a place to play soccer. And we've got many examples like this across the board. So basically what it comes down to is the cities, we are doing our best to try and address the many challenges that we have. And citizen activism is one thing. I know there are a lot of campaigns out at the moment, and I hate to be cynical, bursting anyone's bubble, but driving around with your lights on during the day, it's not going to change the world. What you need to do, in my personal opinion, is find a project that you're passionate about, or join up with something that inspires you, and use your talent, and most importantly, use your education to make a difference within your own community first. The city does work for you, but you also have to do your bit. So that's where I'm going to end. Thanks.